We're here today at Yamaha Champ School, CMP. We're doing the full course. We're sitting with Cody Wyman and Mr. Chris, what's your last name?
Peris.
Chris Peris, right? Cody Wyman, you might know him. He's a professional motorcycle racer, a pro, an actual one. And then, what's your background?
I used to be, yeah.
You used to-
Back in the day, I used to do a lot of racing. I got to do a lot of AMA pro racing, superbike, all that kind of stuff. Then went overseas, raced for in World Super Sport for a couple years, and then came back and did a lot of endurance racing. So won the national champion in that in like 8 times.
So another pro.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, definitely a pro.
So we're just gonna ask them a couple of questions about things that I don't know, things that I want to know more about, and things that you guys might want to know about too.
We were at Roebling yesterday.
Yes.
We come straight here on Monday,
Yes.
right? Love it. Touring around, riding all the tracks, ton of track time. Was working with Andrew, Moto America kid, doing
Wayne,
doing
yes.
14s on a 660 around Roebling, and literally talking during film about the same thing, having them work on outside knee and placement and just like these little things of patience. It's truly where we have riders here that would go 25 seconds slower, where some of it is the same application.
So when talking about new riders, what are the key things that you want to teach? Like, for example, I'm a new guy that just bought a motorcycle 6 months ago. I've been riding in the street. I am not confident at all. I'm coming to Yamaha Champ School. The first 2 days that they come here, what is the thing you really want to work into their brains? Because they're going to start doing track things. Novice level, what do you want them to learn?
I think it's a lot of the kind of fundamentals is really where the school starts off. So it's a lot of, kind of visual things, right? We got to kind of know where to place the bike, what to look for, where the, bike needs to be. And then brakes would be probably the next biggest thing. It's if you can see it and you have the ability to adjust to it, you can add speed and refine it and work on body and all these other things for the rest of your life. But you kind of have to start with, I think, those fundamental building blocks of kind of vision, brakes, and all the other little things that play into it.
Specific points, you said brakes, right? You said vision, and you said body position.
Yeah, part of it, and probably like, eyes, brake, body is kind of the way we prioritize
Kind of
it.
in that order, yeah.
Eyes, brake, body.
Yeah.
So the most important thing when you come to the track is, okay, we want you to make sure you're looking ahead all the time, right?
And kind of looking at the correct part of the corner, right?
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, eyes and brakes are definitely the 2 top priorities. And then I think it's a pretty good amount of distance before body.
Okay.
Like, I think riders hyper focus on their body position
I agree with that, yes.
so much, for what it looks like. And we see all these different styles in Moto America and MotoGP, but we do 2-ups where we're stuck in the middle of the seat. People are holding on, so we can't move at all. But just having eyes and brakes and our controls available, like we can still showcase a pretty proficient lap and a decent lap time.
Yeah.
Where I think people prioritize sometimes the wrong things. But eyes and brakes, because those things are tied together. We're tying our eyes to our brakes constantly and calculating how we move through space to how we're adjusting brake pressure.
Yes.
So, I mean, new riders, there's still riders who don't use the front brake at all, right? Which is crazy.
When I first got to the track, I remember the coaches emphasizing in body position and not in braking, because it was not coaches, it was just a track day, and the control riders would just be like, listen, do what I do, and they tell you about how to pull your knee out and then show your body position. But eyes and brake, it's most important. The skills that you want to get under your belt before you worry about body position, right?
I think so. We even talked like, what if we did a lead follow where we had people sit in the center of the seat and just focused on eyes and brakes, and then started to incorporate these things, right? We haven't done that, but
yeah, at the pointy end, it's all relevant, obviously. Like as you go quicker, all the
Makes
things
a
need to
bigger
come
difference.
together.
Yeah.
But if you're rolling around a racetrack that's a minute 30 lap record, and you're doing 2 minutes, like the body is so far down the priority at that point. Like you want to take the big big chunks of lap time in some of these things, which is visual, using the brakes, where you're accelerating, where the bike needs to change direction. Like that's where you will find wholesale seconds versus, refining it. And as you get to a certain point at a certain pace, yeah, if you're not using your body to mitigate lean angle, you're going to be getting close to that edge of grip and run the risk of falling down. But, for a lot of these riders that are getting in new to it, I think there's probably higher priorities just to start off on for sure.
Right. We were touching on the 100 points of grip earlier today, and one of the things that I struggled when I was a novice rider was trail braking. I was scared, okay? Anytime that I would tip in the bike, I would let go of the brakes. That's what 99% of the guys who do their first strike, they do. Mm-hmm. How do you get over that fear? How can you help getting over that fear?
Yeah, I think we started before we were the Yamaha Champions Riding School. We started at Freddie Spencer's way back in the day. Yeah. And, Freddie Spencer said, I'm going to teach brand new riders how to trail brake. And, Honda at the time said, man, that is, you can't do that. That's a racing technique. He's like, I don't think you understand the sport, right? And that he was very, I believe if you could text on a phone, you could trail brake, right? It is not a difficult skill set to get. It might be, difficult to achieve and kind of work towards. The concepts are super simple, but it's putting the time in like anything else, right? So I don't know if there's, one thing is going to be like, oh, well, if I hear that, it's going to work. It's practice, and that's why, coming to the atmosphere of a school where you slow things down, you don't just talk to them, send them out, and they go roll around the racetrack. We put you in drills. We put you in these stopping things. We kind of do a lot of things outside of like, I talked about it, go try to figure it out. We try to put you in those positions so you have to kind of get through that barrier. And once you see people master the brakes, man, the lap times just start dropping. So
if we can play with all that initial percentage, which is just the first couple percent, all at the end of the lever, or you could think like brake light, brake pressure. If you can have the finesse, and comes with practicing, you could do it on a static bike. You could push your motorcycle and play with a couple percent of brake. If you just told a new rider to use that couple percent of brake that lights up the brake light until they were pointed, like that's trail braking. And as you add speed, you would need to build more brake pressure. And as you get closer and closer to the edge of grip, you would have to start easing off brakes as you add lean angle. The misconception is actually hurting more riders than not. Like most crashes are riders getting off the brakes, tipping in, and then having an underloaded tire go suddenly. If you've ever lost a front where it just happens immediately, that's most cases being off the brakes and trying to steer in on a tiny contact patch, right? And then you talk about overloading the front, really well.
Yeah, I think, as that we start getting closer to the limit, right? Building brake pressure and corner entries, brake pressure versus lean angle. So the riders that are trying to push more and more, build more and more brake pressure, you'll eventually start to get to a point where, if you lose the front at a track day, right? Typically you're turning into the corner, we got a lot of brake pressure on, and you'll feel the bars turn into the corner. We kind of roll the thing off the front tire. And, you'll see it in MotoGP and a lot of kind of the high level racing, but less common at track days. But it's starting to get the feel for some of these things happening and realize, it's brakes versus lean angle. If I'm starting to feel that feedback from the bike, which is your handlebars turning in, you'll feel it kind of bar pressure, and that's where things like body position is important. If you're locked out on your arm, you don't feel that, right? So that's why it starts to come back in at a certain pace. But you start realizing that and go, okay, I got one of two things. I got to give away brake pressure or take away lean angle, and ideally both to try to save those crashes like you see Marquez and some of these top riders do at that level.
Awesome.
Yeah, having a 1% hand, we call it like a 1-point hand, or 1% adjustments. If we can have these smooth adjustments at lean angle, we'll be able to get just close to the edge of grip, but then get the warnings. If you're always grabbing, stabbing 10, 20 points at a time, you'll jump over that edge without having a chance to save it, right? If you're always underloaded, it's the most nervous type of motorcycle is a chassis that's not being compressed and loaded into the ground.
Oh, we'll get into that later.
It doesn't push back on us. You'll save more crashes because you'll be closer to the edge. You'll get more warnings or feedback before it just would immediately go. Or we see riders at track days that are aggressive, that carry speed into a corner, and they misjudge it. They don't adjust soon enough. They get in too fast, and they still try to get to the apex.
That's me.
Right. It happens, right? We almost get a little greedy where we get close, and it's like, I'm in pretty quick, but I might as well still try to get there. Where if we just ran a few feet wide, and it's part of that, like if we probably could have felt the warning those warning signs a little bit earlier, ran a little less lean, survived the corner, like didn't crash, didn't destroy a bike, break a collarbone, whatever it is, you would have some of those, you would save more crashes by being closer to that kind of 100 points or to the edge of grip scale.
Yeah. Now, I'm a novice rider. I've been doing like 5 track days. I want to get a bump to intermediate. If you were the coach, what would you look for when you go behind me in an evaluation?
Yeah, like at a track day, for sure to be predictable, to be smooth. You know, how you pass riders, I think is really important, especially into I and A group, that you're not standing people up, that you're consistently on line. So this smooth, predictable on apex, I think part of the riding, which is really the discipline part. You're not just gonna send it. I group is sketchy because people accelerate, right? Novice, most people they're trying to work on the brakes.
They're still scared.
Yeah.
Usually it's like they don't have the confidence in the brakes, therefore they don't really ever accelerate. Because if they were confident to accelerate, why wouldn't they go as fast as they can any straightaway if they were confident to slow at the end of that straight or into the corner, right? Intermediate, now you have riders that will go wide open any chance that they get, but maybe sometimes struggle in the judgment part around other riders or the brakes past tipping kind of part.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the most issues I run when I was in intermediate is overconfidence. I got comfortable in the bike. I would run wide almost every corner. So I was just brake as late as possible. I'm running wide, the front is doing all of this, right? So what would you say to most of those intermediate guys who are like sending it too hard, too soon? What are things that you can tell them, hey, listen, you should do this, this, and this, so you can become safer, and so you can get a bump into the faster group faster? Right?
I would say kind of the idea of focusing a lot on corner exit, right? I think when you go to a track day, everyone's got this mentality of, man, I got to get later to the brakes. I'm going to outbrake everybody. I'm going to be into the quarter harder. And you start realizing you charge the entry, you hurt your exit, right? You hurt the drive off the corner. That's really where you make up lap time. So that would be kind of first thing. We always say this idea, we want to go to the brakes lighter and longer, go into them maybe a little bit earlier, but it's the rider that goes late, crushes it, they overslow it, they lose that feel, they get nervous, and it becomes kind of a hectic thing. So start it earlier, slow things down, and we want to think about a corner chronologically, right? I want to get entry, apex, exit. Think about prioritizing these big exits first. That's probably the number one thing. I would say next would be most riders are too fast in the middle of the turn, right? They want to start getting back to the throttle early, but as you accelerate, the weight goes backwards, the fork extends, the bike runs wide. So now you're doing this off the corner, picking it up, rolling off because you're running off the racetrack. By the time you get to wide open throttle, you've already kind of given up so much of the straightaway. So, that's probably another big one. And I think for another thing to think about, if you're getting into it and you really do want to work on technique is, not just getting a set of slicks and relying on lean angle to save everything, because I really think it does you a disservice at first, because you get a hot, sticky slick, you see riders and go, man, there's no way he's staying up. And you're like, oh my God, how did he make that work? But they got a ton of grip. You're going to throw money at it and good tires. And that's great at a certain point. Yes, absolutely. You want the grip. You want to get things working. But I think in the learning process, it's a bit of a Band-Aid. You get away with things that you really shouldn't be doing, and you learn a lot of bad habits, I find. That's probably
it's
what I would say.
It's funny that we've just started talking about equipment and actually disregarded it.
Yeah.
Right? Like we ride these stock bikes on DOTs. Bikes are so good off the floor nowadays. You can go incredibly fast on stock motorcycles. Like, yeah, if you're wanting to get into racing, A group, yeah, it's like slicks eventually is the answer. But I think novice group, most riders are not using brakes at lean angle. So they overslow. They don't really trail brake. So they get off the brakes and then they're way too fast mid-corner. And then the I group is I have to go fast everywhere. I need to be fast at the entry. I need high corner speed. I need to get big exits. And then they're the ones that are rushing entries consistently, right?
I agree. That's what I was doing all the time.
Yeah.
And I ran into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, you're not alone on that one. So
Yeah.
And then I started throwing money at the bike, and obviously it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So, cool. So now, the intermediate guy, I'm starting to abide by the rules. I'm a little faster than the group. I want to get above to advanced. I go to Cody. Cody, I think I'm fast enough. Let's do a evaluation for advanced. Now, what are you looking for in somebody that is either ready to go into the advanced group or club racing? Because I think that's about the same level in which most people get into racing, right?
Yeah, I definitely do think for advanced, you know, understanding the slowest point of the corner, and that there's corners that it's not just I go 50 through the corner, I go 55 through this corner, I go 60 through this corner, I go 65 through this corner. Like at some point, there's slow corners that you can only go so fast through, where riders just try to make the mid corner speed a lot higher. And then as if I was a control rider or owned a track day organization, I'd really want to be comfortable in a rider going from I to A, that they're going to have good judgment, that they're going to make clean, safe passes, that they're not you know, being a disruption in an A group session. Like A group should be pretty polished. No one's jumping off the racetrack without signaling. People aren't really running off the track or anything like that often. But I think yeah, I mean, still, as you see,
consistency is huge, right? Like you will see very few riders, even in an A group at most track days. I bet you it's less than 10% get the bike the same place lap after lap and in the right spot for an entire lap. So if you're coming into this,
an A group.
Yeah, and if you could be patient and disciplined and go, you know what, I'm going to get my bike from here, I'm going to use my brakes, get it to here, I'm going to use the track on the exit, you will be doing better than the majority of riders in A group, and the pace will start coming. I mean, it really is a consistent thing at a certain point.
How many track day riders would use a track map and finish their session and go in and go, well, I keep screwing up turn 14, like maybe I should slow down more entering that corner, right? That's like being more technical, but all I see is emotion at track days and emotional riders.
By the way, I cannot tell you how much helpful this thing is.
Dude.
Like just knowing that like I'm screwing up turn 14 and on track I have an idea, but then I look in here, I'm like, oh, that has more angle than it looks like on track. I should definitely slow down more, later entry, so I can have a better exit.
Yeah.
Right, so you know, that's one little thing. Track mats, very helpful.
Yeah.
Very helpful.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of the common issues that I was running to when I'm in advance is, first off, there's a point that I hit that just pushing the markers or getting early on the throttle, it wouldn't get me any faster, right? And that's when I started to get technical into things, like why does this happen when I get on the gas, or how much faster is it for me to grab a short shift so that the bike doesn't get upset when I tip it into turn 7 at Homestead, right? What are the most common things that those riders, for example, if you're like 10 seconds off the track record lap, right? I'm at that point where I'm at like about 8 seconds off every track that I go from the Superbike lap record. So I know that I have problems when I look at my telemetry. I barely ever get to full throttle. I might be hanging around at 90%, right? I have issues when it comes to trail braking. Always late, never early. I'm always that same problem from intermediate people. I'm still trying to go too much in the brakes, sending it, trying to make that apex. So I'm overslowing in the middle of it, right? Now I try to be patient and wait for a good exit, but at the same time now the bike is like, you know, low in the RPMs, weird. You know, I try to get on the gas and I don't pick it up, and then it starts to like do this, right? So what I'm trying to get is what are those little things that people should work on that are very simple to fix, that you don't have to throw money at the bike?
I mean, we talk about the track map, like we break down each corner into what style. Like at Champ School, we think there's 3 different styles of corners, and that really helps us break down a racetrack and determine how each corner should be ridden. And even A group riders in the back of Moto America that are riding exit corners as if they have a big entry, and or vice versa. I think when you do your data videos with the live telemetry, like it's great stuff. But there's times that I feel like a long, maybe a year ago, I would see your brake release go from you're trailing off to 50 points of brake, 50%, 40, 30, 20, 20 to 0. And I would see quick drop-offs at the end of your trail-offs. And I remember telling Easy, like, man, he needs that final 5%. He needs the last 10, 15% to be more of a trailing off. So at the end of your braking, or really where the bike needs to change direction best, you were commonly wanting to throw away the brakes too early. So you lose that biting edge to get the last little bit of direction change. We talked about the slowest point, how there's a certain part of the corner that we should be going slowest, that upper echelon of even expert club racers kind of don't pay enough attention to, I think. And then even with lean angle, trying to manage risk, yes, we can use lean angle to help the bike steer everything, but we're recognizing where in the part of the corner that we should be leaned over most, and actually trying to get away from that lean, especially on a big bike.
Yeah. 100%. Now, so initial and final 5% is extremely important, right? What is one other thing that is extremely, for example, that little detail for me, we were talking about it earlier. Tino mentioned that since I'm not getting to full gas, that issue when I was stroke braking into a corner, let's say I re-grip, right? And I'm trying to re-grip, pull full throttle, right? And I approach in a corner and I'm grabbing the brakes and I still maintain like 3-5% throttle. Now, running wide, dangerous as well. And he mentioned that just a little thing, right before you start to brake and you're gonna present your fingers to brake, just go, even though you're at 100% throttle, just go a little bit more. That way, when you're about to grab the brakes, you go to 0. So that's
yeah, right. If we're near wide open or wide open, if I can just rotate my hand a little bit more before I get up and roll off to the brake, I'm gonna ensure that I get a full turn. Because we see that all the time of riders on the brakes but still squeezing a couple percentage of throttle on.
Yes.
And I think riders will unknowingly do that, right? Maybe you pull data and you're like, oh shit, I'm holding the throttle open on the brakes. Like that's telling the bike 2 different things, and that's being taught in states to new riders, which is insane, right? But yeah, I think when you're done with the brakes, to re-grip and get a little bit higher in the throttle, so when you're accelerating, your hand's not trying to drop down like this when you see riders try to accelerate to wide open. And then as you're holding wide open, and sometimes even the fingers are holding wide open, we'll kind of re-grip and get a little bit further out so we can get a full turn. Thinking wrist up, kind of using our thumb or these fingers to hold the throttle completely shut against the throttle drum, so you're not unintentionally having both on. I don't think anyone's really intentionally trying to do that.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you could be relatively relaxed in your hands, you go to it, the mistake's been made. If you can relax your hand and just let that spring kind of close the throttle back shut, right? So the rider that's kind of death gripping it will struggle. If we go, oh, you hear the motor, just kind of relaxing the hand, the throttle's naturally going to shut itself, right?
Yeah,
so if you're,
loaded.
so don't, we're trying to get hands, but it's like anything else. You're going to make the mistakes, right? Sometimes you don't have the time to re-grip and you're in the middle. You just got to kind of relax your hand, can pull your palm off, let that throttle shut and start again at the next throttle application.
Right. Now, I want to talk about point and shoot, because it's one of the things I learned recently and I'm working on it. Why is it so important, especially on a big bike?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, what we're always trying to do, and Matt Mladen talked about this in the Superbike. He said, when you really understand the sport, it's about straight lines. So you can imagine the idea, the rider that can run a straighter entry line, straighter on the brakes, they're going to have less lean angle percentage, so they have more brakes available to them, right? So that's kind of where it's advantageous on the entry. Same idea with the exit. The rider that lets it slow turn and point mid-corner, and has a straighter exit line, can take away lean angle faster, get back to wide open throttle faster, leave it there a little bit longer. The trade-off for that is you have to be slower mid-corner, right? And it works when you have a very fast motorcycle. On a slower bike, it might be a little bit more corner speed and let the thing roll, let it get through there. But what our bikes all do so well is stop and go, right? They stop really well, brakes are awesome, big horsepower, they're light coming out of the corner. So we want to maximize that time, which gets us kind of what we talked about, the rider that's too fast mid-corner. They get, we always say it's not the rider that gets to the throttle first who has the quickest lap time, it's who can get to wide open throttle first. So that rider has to be patient in the middle of the corner to let it rotate and point so we can accelerate back out. So straighten the entries and exit, point and shoot kind of idea, big deal, the faster the bike.
Which becomes such a visual thing too, right? How do you know what you're pointed at, where you really can finally shoot at, right? So you're constantly going up and back and kind of waiting, and when things line up, like that, the patience for that moment, so that you can get aggressive without ever needing to give it up. Like that takes some discipline. That takes kind of taking a breath, letting the bike slow a little bit more, maybe more than you think at times. So this can happen easily without having to ease off of it or hold lean angle on corner exit.
So it's about who gets to wide open throttle first, not who gets to the throttle first.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds about right. Now, tell me one more thing that would be helpful for me.
I think, corner entry and grip pressure. I think grip pressure, weight in the hands, trying to make sure that as we're tipping in, we're able to relieve that pressure. We're really able to let our legs take over, right? Like you hear, there's never weight in the hands. It's not true. Straight up and down, there's a ton of weight in the hands. We're holding ourselves up. We're trying to keep ourselves from sliding forward to not fall into the tank. You see, in GP, they dangle their inside leg. There's weight in the hands for sure. After they counter steer and kind of initiate tip in, after the bike really starts to fall in, we really have to be able to relieve grip pressure, right? That's going to help the bike steer in. That's going to help us loosen up our hands, make sure we're not throttling, make sure we're not overlapping throttle and brakes. It'll help us be smoother. It'll help us get feedback and feeling
I think that's
of being the
biggest
edge of the
thing,
grip.
right? You get feel, and that's how you start kind of pushing that limit. The rider that's kind of got too much weight here, they don't get that feel, and they feel like, man, I'm not sure where the edge of the tire is. I'm not sure where the edge of limit of grip is in this corner. So as you kind of get that idea, I think it becomes just the ability to kind of feel what the bike's doing and make those changes, a little bit more frequently with brake pressure, whatever it might be. But you got to be able to get the feedback from the motorcycle.
And probably sitting up a little bit earlier than you think, right?
Setting up earlier.
Yeah, I mean, but even braking earlier. Everyone thinks that you got to brake at the last moment, and when that happens, your time and distance to get everything done, it has to be near perfect. And we're never perfect in this sport, right? You're saying if I can feel it sooner, I can make more adjustments, right? We say it at the school, you will always be too early or too late in the brakes. You'll always brake too hard or not hard enough. It's as you're scanning how you can adjust. That's what the best riders are doing is be kind of aim small, miss small. Like they're trying to narrow the mistake. You will make a mistake every single corner. There's no perfect. When you brake later and later, you have to be closer and closer to perfect, and it's really hard to build off that.
So it's your ability to adapt to that mistake that you will for sure make.
To every corner entry, to every mid-corner speed, to every, usually by exits, we're pretty sorted, right? That's why corner entry is kind of this whole sport.
Right. Now, is it really necessary to drag elbow?
I mean, for the gram.
For social media, that's right. Cool.
No, I mean, we're trying to run max lean for as short a time as possible.
For sure, sounds, especially on a big bike, because you want to
Yep.
corner.
Yeah, I mean, in the point and shoot, like on a slower bike, it becomes a straight-ish line that you're kind of driving out. You don't need to stand it up as much. You can drive it harder on the side of the tire on a slower bike. When tires are hot, body's good, all these things. Or even just the rider, if they're not dragging knee and they're wanting to get to that, like we say now, if the tires are hot, the body position's good, You know, tires, you're checking pressures, right? You're on top of this. Your body position's where it should be. You know, weights to the inside of the motorcycle. Not a ton of weight in the hands. Track's hot. Like these conditions, like with that being said, your knee should touch before we lose grip.
So
right.
It's just a side effect of proper technique.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's speed, right? You add more speed, the result is more lean angle. And it's usually not riders trying to lean over to go faster. Yes, there's long carousels where you can play with lean angle, and if you add a couple, you're at 40 degrees and 50 degrees, and you add another couple degrees, and you see if the bike can steer sharper, right? Then hey, you're not at the edge of grip yet. If you're in a long carousel and you add some more degrees of lean and the thing starts to push or doesn't tighten its radius, like, hey, we know we're close. But if we're leaned over and we add a little bit more and try to, it's a request. I'm requesting the front to steer more. Just like how if I was at the limit in a car and I add more steering and the thing starts to understeer or push, I'm requesting it to steer. It doesn't mean it's gonna. If I'm at the edge of grip and I ask a little more lean and the bike steers in and I have to add speed, like so I don't run over the inside curbing, like that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
It means I have more grip available.
Awesome. All right, so I have a couple of things. Earlier today, I was taking notes of things that really caught my attention, and I wanted to talk to you about them. You said there's a common misconception: when in doubt, throttle out, and it comes from dirt bikes. Do not throttle out.
Yeah, you've heard that before?
Yeah.
When in doubt, throttle out. It rhymes, it must be true.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, comes from kind of the dirt world and accelerating and driving out of issues or a speed wobble. Like if you slow down more, usually it's going to get worse. But I think riders are heard when you get out of shape, just accelerate and that'll like kind of solve your problems. It won't. You
Usually
add
makes it
speed.
worse.
Yeah. You add speed, your radius opens. Like that's, I mean, seriously, like single vehicle accidents, that's the number one reason that riders are getting hurt is accelerating before you're pointed. You're asking the bike's radius to open up. That's how the bikes are designed. So when in doubt, probably slow down.
Slow down.
Run less lean angle. Yeah.
So in a racetrack at least, right? What if you get a head shake?
Head shakes. Yeah.
I get those all the time in the
trying to, okay.
Is that like a real thing, or you can just?
Yeah. I mean, I think the idea is, you know, the head shake is generally coming from the rider. You know, these things work so damn well on their own. The wheels are a gyro, cranks a gyro. The bike wants to stand up and go straight. It's typically us putting bar pressure that gets the bike to the point. You know, one, have a good steering damper. That definitely helps the situation, right? Kind of slow that down a little bit. But yeah, I think the idea is if you're just kind of staying on the throttle, relax your arms, the wheels are going to come back in line because those gyros are spinning quick. They want to get kind of back together. So yeah, I'd say just kind of relaxing a little bit, stay in the throttle. You'll see it off of every corner on a super bike. They're accelerating, the wheels off the ground at the touch. They'll do one of these and then they'll keep going on with their way because the rider's relaxed. They're not putting any kind of input into the bike that's kind of pissing it off.
Yeah, or track days, you hear it, get a head shake. Oh, I need to turn up my steering dampener. Now it's tighter. Now when it head shakes, it gets worse. Like yes,
Really?
there's like a fine line there. I feel like with the steering dampener, where it can help smooth things out. But if you tighten it up and it's harder to steer and you have weight in the hands, usually it starts and it's harder to get out of even.
Oh yeah, because you're putting all the load in like the actual the chassis.
By the time it comes back, it's already wanting to go the other direction because it's kind of pulling it slightly.
Oh, I see.
And with grip pressure,
Because
like
it's slowing the speed of the. Okay, I get it. I got a general idea. All right, so you were mentioning the bike is a big gyro, right? Now I remember you saying something about foot positioning, and you related it to the gyro situation.
Yeah, no, we call the foot peg kind of the inside axis of the gyro, which is the bike is a big gyro, right? Wants to kind of go straight, all that rotating mass.
What is there? Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, go.
What is the rotating mass?
Right, so the wheels, when the wheels spin, right, you can think of a gyro. If you spin a wheel, it'll kind of, as it builds speed, it wants to kind of stand up if you hang it from a string, right?
Yeah.
It's a
A
similar
fidget
idea.
spinner.
Yeah, exactly. Fidget
Yeah.
spinner, same idea, right?
Nice.
All that rotational mass is going to want to stand the motorcycle up, right? So that's what the wheels are doing. As they're spinning, you'll see a rider fall down, the bike will stand back up and keep going sometimes, right? Just That's what it does. The crank is also spinning the motor. Same idea. So the bike wants to kind of have the gyro, make it go straight. We think of the foot pegs as being kind of the longest leverage point from the edge of the gyro. So when we talk about body, we talk about as we move our upper body, the weight is going to the edge of the foot peg, and that's what helps your motorcycle steer or pushes on that gyro, inside of the gyro, to help it kind of turn. So we just kind of think of it a little bit in that form, foot peg. The more weight, if I want to go left, the more weight I can get on that left foot peg, the more that bike is going to want to steer into the corner.
Oh. See, if I had to put it on dumb terms, if you get a fidget spinner and a pencil in the middle, the longer the pencil, the easier it's gonna be to turn.
Exactly.
Nice.
Oh, there you go.
You ever ride little bikes?
No.
400s, R3s?
I did Bushnell once, but
Okay.
it helped a lot with corner speed.
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause it has nothing, so I'm like, oh, if I want to stand up the bike, I gotta go faster.
Just the lightweight stuff, like it pushing and makes a bigger difference with our feet. But just as important for the foundation, right? Like to have our feet in the right spot so we can move our upper body across.
Oh, that's pretty
You push on the bagger foot peg, it doesn't really,
cool.
it's not really
Yes,
doing too much.
Not the same.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The radius equals miles per hour, right? You were talking about matching the radius to your corner speed. Just explain that to me again, because I don't get it.
Yeah, we talk about this concept of, you know, a bike at a constant lean angle and a constant throttle setting, like the speed stays the same. We do it in a big parking lot, it'll carry a constant radius, right? Because a given lean angle, given throttle setting, your bike will just run around all day in that same kind of circle until we change the speed, right? If I hold the lean angle and accelerate, the bike is going to start running wider and wider and wider. If I slow the motorcycle, the circle will get smaller and smaller and smaller, right? There's probably physics that we don't all understand, but that's how we kind of equate it, right? If I accelerate, the bike runs wide. So when we say we want to have our speed match the radius of the corner, the idea is, you know, if you've got this really slow, tight corner and your speed is too high, it is going to be very, very difficult without throwing a lot of lean angle at it and a lot of issues to make that work if your speed is too great, right? It's why we slow down for a corner, right? So if we're not kind of understanding that, wow, that corner looks really tight, I better start slowing significantly more, that's where riders run into problems, right? They just go, okay, this seems about good, I'll hold the speed. The corner tightens up and they don't change their speed and they run across the double yellow line, or at the track day, they run off the racetrack, or whatever the situation is. It's really just your speed doesn't match that corner.
Yeah. The most dangerous part of the track is pit in and pit out, because you said that earlier.
So the most dangerous part of the racetrack is pit in and pit out. And reason we've seen some of the worst crashes we've seen, I know riders that have died entering or exiting a racetrack, is because just the variance in speed is so big, right? You've got riders that are, you know, maybe shutting the throttle to get off the racetrack while someone's wide open throttle coming down the straight. So when they come together, it is catastrophic. You know, same idea with entering the racetrack. The rider that, you know, doesn't look back, doesn't cross the blend line. You might have, you know, even here at CMP, it is fast down into turn one. They may be on the brakes, but if you just pull out into that onto the racetrack, the bikes are already stopping as hard as they can into turn one, right? Like they can't make any more adjustment. It is a hard braking corner. So if you get in the way, you're getting hit from a dead standstill. And that's where riders really do like some of the worst injuries. You know, tracks are relatively safe, but big speed discrepancies, that's really what gets people hurt and killed.
Yeah, raising our focus like intensely in those moments, getting on and off track, and checking out the track and how to get off track properly, safely. Most track days they have, hey, by this corner, like a commitment, you know, you have to signal and be to the extreme far side of the track where pit lane is. Be signaled. You want to signal before you roll off. People will chop their throttle and then say, hey, I'm gonna exit. Like that's a big no-no. And since you're off speed, you should be able to be to the extreme edge of the track, like almost uncomfortably close to the grass line on the pit lane side. So we raise our focus in those areas. Another way to protect yourself is to never pass a rider on the pit lane side between the final corner and track exit, right? Here at CMP, a rider could dart across to the left, And it happens, it's usually like end of the day, lack of focus, like people are fatigued and they just go, oh man, my light came on, or I'm tired, I'm gonna get off track, without signaling, and you're trying to pass them right in that area. Like, it's this rider's fault because they pitted out without signaling, or they did it at the last moment, but there's 2 bikes down because you passed in a somewhat of a vulnerable position. So we'll always kind of wait till they get past pit out, and then try to make sure that we're clear. I'm gonna guarantee that I'm not getting cleaned out. Like, yeah, it's. Are you gonna yell at them when there's 2 bikes down and you're both in the hospital? It's like, who's
helicopter ride, like you
yeah,
mentioned.
yeah, like
Yeah.
no matter whose fault it is, like I protect myself at all times, just like in the street. I'm not gonna put myself in a situation where I could get cleaned out.
Yeah. You mentioned something about body position and twisting. If you're too far up in the seat, it gets all wrong, because basically if you're too far in, when you twist, you go forward, and actually, even though you're going that way, your body's pointing this, so you cannot even see, right?
Yeah, so when we sit a little bit too close to the fuel tank, we get right up against the fuel tank. You know, we won't be able to really kind of move because our stomach, rib cage, everything is kind of caught in there. So what we will see riders do when they're up there is they almost twist their hips to try to rotate around it, because you got this kind of big mass in the way. So once we do this, you can imagine if I'm going left and I rotate around the fuel tank, you know, my shoulders, everything's pointed out this way, yet I want my bike to go that way. So you can see I'm having to look over my shoulder towards you. It's gonna be very difficult. I'm gonna see it late, which means I'll be late getting back to the throttle or making the adjustments, whatever it might need to be. So we think about scooting back off the fuel tank, maybe being fist distance back. You wanna get a little bit of room, and that allows you the ability, when we move our body on the bike, we wanna move laterally. That's what the signal the bike wants to get to steer. So if I can get my body from one side left to right, that's what we're chasing. If we get too close to the tank, it kind of hurts that a little bit.
Yeah, I feel like that's the reason most new riders that want to drag knee, they're just
Yep.
looking for
Yep.
that knee drag, and then they just twist and go all the way down, and that's why I see, you know, like all of this.
And it's a little bit like the, you know, kind of the when in doubt, throttle out, like be right up on the fuel tank's a dirt thing, right? So riders come into it and they've heard always be right on the fuel tank. Well, yeah, it's a little bit different discipline for that.
Yeah, then your outside knee kind of flares out. You're not really able to drive the knee into the outside knee into the tank, which will help the bike steer in, but kind of more importantly, hold ourselves up so we can move our upper body. Like, I feel like more people try to drag knee by getting more butt off, when really it's trying to, like, let's usually get a little bit more ass on the seat, scoot back so we can really drive this outer knee into the tank, which will allow us to hang off more with our upper body, get the bike to steer better, get more weight off to the inside, run less lean angle. Like, it's all good things.
Everything is better.
There you go.
I got it. Yeah. Okay, this one I actually not learned. I kind of knew it in the back of my head, but it wasn't explained properly to me before. Your body position needs to be the lowest on corner exit. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you tell me.
It's the head drop. It's what everyone watches on GP, right?
That's what I want to get.
Everyone sees it.
Yeah, so.
Like, yeah, your body needs to be lowest on corner exit.
Why?
Right, so we'll sit up on the brakes. We're adding body down into the corner as we're steering in. We go to neutral throttle. When the time comes to accelerate, I want to drop my head and bring my head lower and stand the bike up slightly so I can accelerate. If I just hold one lean angle and my head's up high and I accelerate, the radius is going to open up, right? If I just hold one lean angle, one throttle, I drop my head to the inside, the bike steers in, right? I want to try to kind of do both. I want to drop my head to offset the acceleration, opening the radius as much. So adding speed opens the radius. If I can drop my head while I'm doing that, I'm going to want to keep the bike somewhat on a similar radius without immediately shooting out wide. Some people will stand the bike up as they accelerate. No, we want our head lowest on corner exit so we can get it on the fat side of the tire, have our mass still trying to pull the bike tight to the inside as we're adding all this speed kind of out to the exit curve.
So it's like canceling itself out,
Yeah,
basically.
ideally.
It's going this way, it's going to pull you this way, and then the gas is going to pull you that way, so
Yep.
you're going to keep the line that you want to keep.
Yep.
Right. You see it at GP, every corner exit. You see them getting in the corner. They're inside the center line, right? Their head's inside the center line of the motorcycle. But then when they go to accelerate, it's this big move.
Yeah. Yeah, because I see all the guys that are trying to drag elbow and they go immediately head to the ground with like neutral throttle, and then they go to the exit and they go whoop, and they fly into the
Right. So don't go to too much body too early, right? I don't extend this elbow before you've accelerated. Now you couldn't stand it up. If the front were to go or the rear were to spin, I can't take away more lean angle. So you kind of leave some in reserve for this move on corner exit. Unless you're rain racing or something and you're fully committing to trying to get the bike as straight up and down as you can. Usually when it goes, it kind of goes anyways. So you leave a little bit in reserve so we could stand the bike up, right? We look at 2 Yamaha Superbike champions, Cam Beaubier, Josh Hayes. Hayes said he would stand the bike up on corner exit. Beaubier said he would drop his head on corner exit. Kind of same idea. However you want to think about it, let's get the bike straight up and down, but let's bring our mass to the inside of the bike to still keep it somewhat on a similar radius so the bike doesn't immediately shoot out. Especially on a faster bike.
Yes.
Right, bigger deal on a higher horsepower machine.
So always leave a little flick. Never a maximum lean angle do this unless very specific situations.
Yeah.
But most of the time, leave a little bit just in case.
Even Marquez spinning the rear through Argentina, and he gets out wide and he stands the bike up, and that outside arm never even got fully extended, even when he lost the rear and had to kind of gather it up. So, like if you leave more room for adjustment, right, it's helps you even more.
Nice. How do you do the flip more efficiently? For example, Homestead turn 13, 14, that little chicane to do. I have a lot of trouble there because it's a left, right, then flip again left onto a straightaway.
Sure. Yeah, going from one side to the other, especially if you're like in that corner, we're braking in, we would accelerate, and would we go back to the brakes for the left?
It's so short though.
No.
Where? In Miami?
Let's
In
say
the last corner.
Let's say Barber, the SS.
I feel like we might just brush them quick.
Yeah, a little bit.
Okay, so the flick, right, going from one side to the other, or almost like going from knee to knee.
Yeah.
Especially there because you're almost already done with the brakes. Since you're on the throttle and you don't have the brakes really assisting steering the bike, when you're on the throttle and need to change direction, there is going to be a lot of bar pressure, a lot of kind of counter steer to flick the bike from one side to the other. You're doing a ton with your legs, how we're weighting the right side to access to the gyro, the right foot peg to the left foot peg. You're doing everything you can pulling from your outside knee to get it to change direction. A thing that sometimes I see people do too often is they go from one side to the other with their head all the way to the other, and it's really hard to push and pull when the bike's kind of over here, where through the transition I can get way more leverage when I'm kind of passing 0 degrees. So we don't just really go from one side to the other as much as we kind of move across. Here I can really push and pull, and then I kind of flip across.
Oh, so you kind of like get on the bike and then you actually use your hands to drop it with the push and pull movement?
Yeah, it starts to all happen at once, like in that specific corner, but
And I would say it looks kind of like a flick, but you are trying to be relatively, it is not aggressive and snappy. You're moving quickly. There's a lot happening in a short amount of time that takes kind of bigger inputs. But if you're thinking it's this snap kind of situation, it looks that way maybe, but it really is not these aggressive inputs. It's just we're trying to speed the body timing up as quick as we can in those areas.
just deliberate, but not really abrupt.
You know which one gives me trouble? Road Atlanta, after the chicanes, you do that left-hander, flip to the right downhill to the SS. Every single time I'm going, last chicane, and my shit goes like this, pushes me left.
Yeah, kind of downhill, like
downhill,
blind.
right, yeah.
I think body timing is a big thing there because it's so hard to time the tip in perfectly into that blind. You know, you're almost adding throttle and lean down the hill there,
Yeah, you are.
especially on a slick. So thinking about like if I can start to get in there a little earlier, and even if I have to kind of stand it up slightly or hesitate and steer back in, it's not as big of a mistake as it would be to be late and wide and then flicking and trying to come across with more lean angle. So I feel like that kind of blind right is a little bit of a slower, more gradual tip in, which would help for you. Is I feel like you're going from here to here too quickly, right? So trying to move across a little bit slower, a little more gradual to allow some adjustment without a lot of drama, without losing a lot of time.
Yeah.
You feel like you go straight across, and then it almost needs to be perfect in that transition. That's another good example though. On throttle direction change, there's going to be a lot of bar pressure and counter steering.
Elaborate a little on that.
Yeah, if we accelerate and the weight's back, you got to push and pull on those bars. I would say Road Atlanta's like through the S's there is like probably one of the tracks that smokes your arms the worst. It becomes very physical pulling on the bars. You know, we'll use a lot of body and upper body when the brakes are on, but under acceleration, it is a lot of counter steering, a lot of pushing and pulling on those bars to get the bike to do what we want to do.
The gyro, right? It's spinning. There's no weight on the front, which would help the bike steer if the front had weight or load. And since the front's really light and the gyro's spinning so fast, the bike feels very heavy. And we can still think first and last 5%, even with bar pressure, like being smooth initially and then kind of loading a little quicker. Super physical track though.
Oh, yeah.
A lot of work.
I would love to keep you for 2 hours and ask you questions about everything, but just walk me through Champ School a little bit, you know, what kind of services you guys offer, and then, you know, so that people can come here, because I'm loving this, you know.
Right on. Basically, we'll have a class anywhere from 24 to about 32 people, just depending on the length of the track, size of the classroom, that kind of dictates how many. But you see what we did. We kind of split the group into two halves.
Correct,
so
yes, yeah.
You're on that side that is a lot more track day
That's
riders.
nice. I didn't experience that.
My side, we've got about half the class. No one in my group has been on a racetrack before. So some of them were as new as, a couple 100 miles street riding. Some just got their license. We've got a 17-year-old kid in here. We've got a very wide range of riders. And you know what we typically think as far as like the entry point to come to Champ School is if you can get the clutch out and get rolling and stop the bike, like, you know, maybe you've done an MSF course or ridden dirt bikes as a kid and you feel comfortable, get it rolling. You know, from there, that's kind of where we'll pick it up. So it's really whatever level. And I would tend to lean towards the idea of it's the riders that don't really come into this with a lot of experience that seem to do really, really well because they don't really have the bad habits that they're here trying to break. They come into it as like, do this? Sure. Why not do this? Do that? Cool. I don't know any different, you know? So we really do cover a broad range of riders. We get a lot of Moto America kids coming in and to people that just got their license. So it really kind of depends on
That makes a lot of
comfort.
sense now that I think about it, because you don't get to do the bad things. You get to be taught the good things. Like now I have to fix shit that I did bad for
Exactly.
2 years. So now it's 2 times harder for me to like get back to basics and then actually work on those little things. Right.
I think, and just track day riders, especially people wanting to go racing, like they ride 10-tenths like all the time, whether it's effort or just 10-tenths mentally, where they don't have the capacity to think about or work on multiple things. So that's why we're constantly trying to get riders to slow down a little bit. And like we do mini drills, where we force you to just think about one thing a whole lap. And I think it's more because it's so hard to get my side, the more experienced side, to slow down, where they can think about 1, maybe 2, 3 things. But also priding ourselves in knowing that it's the same curriculum and we have like a 50% return rate. It's not a level 1, a level 2, a level 3, where it's like come back and then we'll tell you what to do. We have these people to come back and work on some of these same things, and then you add speed and then other things appear again. Or just how you're trying to break some habits and work on things and focus on specific things, and you'll add speed and you'll see some of those things come back again.
Yes.
So it's kind of a constant effort on our curriculum that can be a bit of a blueprint that you keep revisiting, that it's not like, okay, get this down and then you have this perfect and now you can work on this, because usually it really work that way.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what level you are, you go back to basics every single time.
Yeah, we think of it as a degree of application, right? Like it's all the same things. I would say you working on what you're working on and you're racing at your level currently versus the brand new rider, it's a lot of the same stuff. It's just his skill set is obviously doing it at a much higher pace, at bigger lean angles and all the things. So he's got to be a lot more precise, where the new rider, they just got to get their bike in this area, right? And that's what they're working towards. Okay, if I could do this, this, and this, I can get it to work. But it's no different than what anybody else is going to be doing at a top level. Well, this is kind of our 2-day Champ School, which is kind of our premier product, which is basically, show up. If you need gear, we have gear. If you need a bike, we have a bike. We kind of can take you, we go to about 20 different locations, 20 different tracks all over the country. So if you want to fly in somewhere, if there's a track you've always wanted to ride, come on in, we'll get you taken care of. And kind of like we've kind of gone over, it kind of goes through the whole gamut of riding, right? Everything from, the dynamics of how the bike works to what we're trying to do on the motorcycle to how we kind of improve and a lot of little things along the way. And that's kind of our premier product that we do. At this track right now at CMP, we also have the kart track rented, and we'll do a program called Champ Street, which is it's about $500. We run through a lot of the same concepts, but because it's at a kart track, it keeps the speeds low enough. As long as we're under kind of that freeway speed, you can wear street gear. So for a lot of riders that don't maybe want track leathers and all that stuff, they just want to work on the skills and more comfortable attire and all that stuff. That's kind of what we run in through with the street program as well. We do a graduate program. So after the 2-day Champ School, if someone wanted to go on to the graduate program, essentially it's not a too fixed or set of a curriculum. It's the idea that you have a good understanding of the dynamics and how it works. It's a lot more focused on your riding. So we'll do things like put you on a data bike, so you've done some data stuff and you realize how eye-opening it is if you've never done it, right? It's not, are you using the brakes? It's, hey, you're building too much pressure here, you're doing this with the first and last 5%. We can really get kind of into the nitty-gritty of it all. We have mini bikes there, so we've got TTR 125s on 12-inch DOTs. So if you want to, never maybe got your knee on the ground and it was something you're interested in, if you want to work on body position, work on grip at big lean angles, get a feel for losing the front in a relatively low speed environment, we kind of put you on that kind of path. We'll also film you a lot of times throughout the school, so you'll get a ton of feedback, and every time you're going out with kind of more your specific plan of, hey, what is my next step of what I need to work on. And then most of the Champ School instructors also do private lessons, so that's on the homepage as well. If maybe, we have run the Yamaha Champions demo program as well, so may have seen it at some of the track days.
I bought another one because of that thing.
See, it's a very expensive. It is a very expensive program.
It worked well then.
My R6 broke down on Road Atlanta, blew the transmission. Easy was like, here, try this out. Immediately
Sold.
The next day I was like, okay, I guess I gotta buy another one.
Yeah. So at a lot of those where we send our demo program, hey, I want to work with Cody at Road Atlanta. If our truck or trailer's there, we can set all that stuff up. You can come to tracks where we do lessons all over the country as well, and anything in between. We do groups. We do basically whatever you're looking for. If it's based around kind of riding better, that's kind of what our focus is.
Awesome. And also I wanted to mention, because there is an online program, Champ U,
Yes.
and that's perfect if you're planning to attend this or have never been on a track, because they cover most of these basic things.
Yeah, we've actually got a couple different curriculums in the Champ U, and the Champ U core, which is included if you sign up for the 2-day Champ School. That's part of your tuition, so you'll get one. Give it away if you already had it. But we also do a track day version, which is if that's kind of your audience's focus. It's kind of beginning to end of how you do it, what you should be thinking about, the riding aspects of it, bike setup side of it. So we kind of go through the whole gamut of track riding. We do a Champ Body, which is kind of the physical aspect of riding better. We have a new rider one, which is maybe you haven't ridden before or you're wanting to get into it. So we've got a lot of different programs in the online, and it is a lot of really good information. And they're relatively lengthy, but about $100. It's about 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours of material. And if you really want to get a better understanding about it, it is probably the best kind of entryway to get into it and get a good feel for the fundamentals.
So Champ School, I don't know the link exactly, but it's gonna be right here.
Yeah, champschool.com or ridelikeachampion.com.
There you go. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Cody.
Yeah,
Thank
thanks,
you,
bro.
Chris.
Good riding with you.
And some more riding tomorrow. There you
Yeah.
go.